During that time, as growing up in McKenzie Court, everybody was called a big mama or a big daddy, and we had neighbors that took care of us, and my mother took care of other children in the network. So it was a closed community in McKenzie Court.
I knew everybody in the neighborhood, definitely everybody on the street that I lived on. And we lived in, as I was growing up, we lived in 2 different apartments, and I knew all of the neighbors. At least, 10 down on each side.
And in the back was a baseball field. And so we get a chance, being a little girl, just to watch the big, all the neighbors gather, especially all the men's had a team and the young ladies had a team. And every afternoon just had a big family gathering, playing ball and different activities out there.
Well, they had this one big family that everybody went to the auditorium 2 or 3 times a week. You had fashion shows. You had people come in teaching you how to dress and how to count your points to tell whether you was overdressed.
There was a more protective nature that existed, and I would feel that I could leave my home with my door open if my neighbor's there, and I'd say, I'm going up the street and going over to what you call house. I'll be back. I'm going to leave my door open, and there would be protection that I would feel with my neighbor.
If someone, say Miss Brown family, she's working late and her kids need something to eat, and Miss Brown has contact Mama, and Mama says, well, oh yeah, no problem. Well, the Browns come and they would eat at our house. They would get their baths and the whole 9 yards.
It was nothing for an adult to correct us if we were doing something that we weren't supposed to do. They didn't say, I'm going to go tell your mom or your dad. They said, stop doing what you're not supposed to be doing. Stop fighting, stop arguing, stop, let those boys get on that basketball court. You guys have been out there long enough. I mean, they felt free to do that because that was community.
See, when you're in a family, then you feel a need that's greater than your individual need when it comes to your family. So I think that's the attitude that existed there, and it did so because everybody helped everybody.
But it wasn't just for our family, it was for whomever. When we cooked, everybody ate, and that's the way it was.
When my mother was working at that time, and she was a part-time worker first started working in homes and taking care of housekeeping area, general housekeeping. So when my mother left, the neighbors knew that we was there, and like I said, at that time we didn't have babysitter. It was 8 of us. I come from a family of 4 girls and 4 boys, so we actually took care of ourselves, but yet still we had the neighbor across the street from us washed because they knew the time that my mother was going out to work, and they knew when she was coming back. So whenever we was doing anything out of place, our neighbors kept us in contact. Now it's called neighborhood watch, but back then we had neighbors who were already watching us from the left to the right and from the back. So it's a family.
We had to do to take care of each other because, like I say, every parent had to work, and I was responsible for a lot of children back in the days. At the age of 12, I babysat maybe 30 or 40 children. I mean, I literally had to watch these children. Some I had to bathe, some I had to do their hair every week, some I just washed and cleaned for. I mean, because these were our neighbors' children, and those were Miss Vera's children. I had to see about them like I would see about my siblings. And you do not let anything happen to those children because you're responsible for them. And if anything happens, you're going to get your tail whipped regardless. And I was like, okay. But it was fun. It was fun.
Everybody was a close-knit group back then. No matter what part of McKenzie you lived on, they kind of more or less knew each other.
The people who lived here then They called it one big family, and they were like families because this was kind of heaven to most of them from where they had moved from all over the city.